Hey, what's up, y'all? It's X again, and an update on my sickness. I'm I'm progressively getting a lot better, but as y'all can tell, my voice is still not 100% there. So come tomorrow, or at some point during the week, or during the next few episodes of series recap, my voice will be back to normal. But I felt a lot better than I did making my Clippers video, and plus my cognitive function is back. So you won't have to hear me do long pause. Well, this series is full of long pauses, but y'all get my point. But wow, what a game this was, bro. Kevin Durant left it all out there on the floor. 48 points. And he was in for basically the entire damn game, bro. Like, I cannot believe it. And the bench did not score much too. Jeff Green, 0 points. Landry Shaman, 0 points. Nick Claxton only played 1 second, which I don't know. But James Harden was all right for what it was, but he didn't have a great game. But the Brooklyn Nets, just like the Lakers, they also had to deal with a lot of injuries too, especially with the main stars like Kyrie and Harden. Kyrie being the most critical. But Kevin Durant left it all out there. 48 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. But on Giannis' side of things, shout out the Bucks, bro. They gave these two teams just exchanged punches back and forth. When Brooklyn made a run, the Bucks responded, and the Nets responded every time the Bucks made a run. So this was a game of runs and they were just both exchanging punches. And the thing about this game too is that Joe Harris, he's overrated, bro. Joe Harris is considered one of the best shooters in the NBA, and he could not find a damn basket this basically the entire series, with the exception of games 1 and 2. So yeah, Joe Harris is useless. And can we talk about Blake Griffin for a minute, y'all? Blake Griffin proved a lot of people wrong ever since signing with Brooklyn, at least in this Buck series, because Blake played with a lot of physicality. He was playing great defense. Overall, Blake played with a lot of heart too. He really did, and unfortunately, it ended up costing him because he fouled out while Giannis was driving on him. But Blake might have made a name for himself once again. I know, like, Blake is 33 years old, but he's gonna be a key piece for Brooklyn within the next couple of years. And I say the next couple of years because realistically, that's like, you look at Kevin Durant, he'll be 33, James Harden 32, Kyrie will be in his 30s by the time the 2021-22 season rolls around, and Blake Griffin, I think, is the same age as Kevin Durant, so that's why I say a couple of years. But Blake, he's becoming a really solid key player for Brooklyn, and I'm glad he's resurged his career with Brooklyn. Even though it was like, he's washed up, he can't dunk anymore, or blah blah blah. He hasn't dunked since 2019, and Blake, proved that he didn't need to be necessarily an all-star for the Nets, but a really reliable role player. And he showed it tonight. He had 17 points, 11 rebounds, 7 of 12 from the field, 50% from 3. So Blake obviously is better than Joe Harris, but I think he's a piece worth keeping if I'm Brooklyn. But something that kind of made me scratch my head watching this Bucks game is that the Bucks did a lot of dumb stuff this game. This could have easily been a blowout for Milwaukee had they played the same ways they did in games 2, 3, and 6. Obviously, they won on the road, 115, 111 in overtime, but the Bucks had every reason to lose this game. They had a 4-point lead with 40 seconds to go, and I honestly thought that, man, this could be it for the next season. But They turn the ball over. They had a shot clock violation, and Kevin Durant hits a really difficult long two over PJ Tucker. And I honestly thought that was a game winning shot, but his toe was on the line. His big ass feet were on the line. But, you know, the Bucks had a lot of fight, and they showed it this game. So I want to give the Bucks their flowers, and Giannis proved everybody wrong. He's he's proving to us right now that he's not just some regular season MVP that chokes in the playoffs like Houston Rocket James Harden. Because remember, James Harden, when he was with the Rockets, he was like an MVP candidate every year. And minus the last 2 years in Houston, last 3 years if you count the bubble last year, he did not play well come postseason time. And that was the same thing with Giannis. The last 2 years he won MVP. When that wall was formed, the Bucks had no answer for a wall defense. Here, Giannis was hitting perimeter shots. He was hitting much needed free throws. He Giannis was doing it all on the floor, man. Rebounding the ball, playing defense. PJ Tucker's defense was huge. That was another solid addition for Milwaukee. Brook Lopez played a big game, had two critical blocks. He had a total of 4 blocks, but he had two critical ones in the end of the fourth quarter and overtime. Brook had 19 points against his former team. Chris Middleton came up big. Like in game one against Miami, remember Chris Middleton hit the game winner? It was basically that against the Brooklyn Nets in game 7. So this team proved a lot of people wrong because a lot of people had doubts about this Milwaukee team, you know, in terms of can they beat a team like Brooklyn? Can they, prove that they're not just this regular season team that disappoints every year? And so far they're showing that. I picked them to win against Philly or Atlanta, depending on who wins game 7 tomorrow. But shout out the Milwaukee Bucks. They proved everyone wrong after going down 2-0 and even after going down 3-2. Honestly, when they went down 3-2 after Kevin Durant's virtuoso, I thought this series was over. I thought, mentally in the back of their minds, they had a chance to win the series in game 5, and all of a sudden KD drops a 49-point historic triple-double. And to me, I was thinking that, man, the Bucks are probably thinking, can we win against this? Can we really win against this team? And obviously, that's what they did. And the Brooklyn Nets, they went out with a fight. Despite the role players not playing up to standard outside of Blake Griffin and to a certain extent Bruce Brown, this Brooklyn Nets team showed a lot of fight and they played with a lot of heart. Especially KD. KD left it all out there. Giannis left it all out there. And, man, what a game. What a game. And this Game 7 win may have saved Mike Budenholzer's job. I want to get on the topic of Mike Budenholzer because Mike Budenholzer has been notoriously known for being a decent head coach in the regular season to being a coach that doesn't deserve his job in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like, remember, in 2019 against Kawhi Leonard, he went up 3-2, and as soon as Kawhi was put on Giannis, the Bucks had basically no response. And it was the same thing with Jimmy Butler last year. And I think Charles Barkley said it best. The Bucks have a habit of doing dumb stuff on both offense and defense. Like, whenever they move the ball, it looked great. And for some reason, down the stretch of the game, they resort to ISO ball. And they did a good job of not doing that this particular game. But, like I said, Milwaukee does a lot of dumb stuff. And they resort to a lot of bad habits, which leads them to losing big critical games, like Game 5, like the series against Toronto, and like the series against Miami. But they have responded. I don't think, however, it's to the credit of Mike Budenholzer because Mike Budenholzer did a lot. I mean, he wasn't horrible coaching this game, but even still, like his coaching is very suspect in the playoffs. Like making these weird substitutions, not utilizing certain players right. Like I believe Bobby Porter should have got a lot more clock than he did in games 5, 6, and 7. You know what I mean? Not putting Giannis on the best player because it's not part of their defensive scheme. Now that is on Giannis too because I do believe that he should take it upon himself to guard the best player on the team. I don't think he should be a coach's pet about it and say, "Well, it's not part of our defensive schematics." It's like, bro, it don't matter, man. Like you're the best player in the league. You're one of the best players in the league. You're a two-time MVP and you're a defensive player of the year. Now, if this was Steph Curry talking, that would be understandable because Steph Curry's 6'3" and he's a below average defender to average defender. But Giannis is a defensive player of the year and he's 6'11". So the fact that he has said that, and this was going back to the Miami Heat series last year. The fact that he said that, well, it's not part of our scheme to guard the best player, it just made me scratch my head because it's like, you know what? Forget what the coach says. You got to take it upon yourself to guard KD. Now, I'll admit, Middleton, Holiday, and PJ, they all did a great job guarding KD. But even still, I'm just thinking to myself, well, Giannis is probably one of the most versatile defenders, and he can guard 1 through 5. So I don't know why he's standing in the corner guarding Jeff Green of all people when Jeff Green hasn't even scored a damn basket. Do you know what I mean? Now they might have gotten away with it this time, and they'll probably get away with it in the series against Milwaukee. But say they have to face the Clippers or the Suns, especially the Clippers. I'm not rooting for the Clippers. This is just me saying that. I'm saying it because Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are on the team, and Kawhi's faced Giannis before in the conference finals in 2019. Say they have to face that Clipper team in the finals, Giannis is going to have to guard either Paul George or Kawhi. He cannot stand out and guard Terrence Mann. He has to guard either of the two if they really want a chance. So, like I said, they got away with it this series because Kyrie and Harden were injured, and I don't want to be that guy, but let's be honest. If the Nets were healthy, the Bucks, this would not have went to 7 games. It would have been at best Nets in 6. But because of the injuries Brooklyn had to deal with and the lack of continuity on this team showed, the Bucks won this series because of it. Now, I'm not trying to take anything away from the Milwaukee Bucks. I believe what they did this season and this series and the playoffs is incredible. But Brooklyn next year, their team will be much more in tune and they will be hungrier for a championship. And I believe them or the Lakers will win it. It will come down to those two teams next year. But speaking of the Brooklyn Nets, and I want to get to them, this series just showed a lot of flaws with Brooklyn. The flaws with Brooklyn are injuries, which obviously causes a lack of continuity on the team. Because I said the same thing with the Lakers in my Lakers lost left me heartbroken video. The lack of continuity on this team and the fact that they don't have any solid defensive players outside of Bruce Brown. And Blake Griffin actually has solidified himself as a pretty respectable defender because he was able to hold his own against Giannis this series. Even though Giannis did cook him for a good 40, Blake did make it tough on him. But the thing about the Brooklyn Nets, and I will probably make a video about them and like my 2K rebuilds, like what, you know what I mean, what the Nets could do this upcoming offseason. I would not only just run it back. I think this team needs a actual center that can guard the paint. Because Blake, as good of a defender as he is, he's not going to be your paint protector. And DeAndre Jordan didn't get enough clock this series. So he didn't get any clock in the playoffs at all. Nick Claxton definitely should have played more while Blake Griffin was in foul trouble. But I would get perimeter defenders. Like, I know Kyrie and Harden can clamp up when they need to, But it would help if they had an actual 3 and D guy, like let's say a Robert Covington or a two-way player like Josh Richardson from the Mavericks, or a center like let's say a Serge Ibaka, Nerlens Noel, a Dwight Howard, a JaVale McGee, Dwayne Dedman, you know, guys that are energy players, or even get Bobby Porter. This is what happens when I try to film one take, but no, seriously. Get a guy like Bobby Portis if Milwaukee is not even gonna use him. Like get Bobby Portis, who can be a useful energy guy, who can play alongside KD and Blake. And obviously, like I said, get some shooters that can complement the big three, like and mostly 3 and D guys like Danny Green. Even though he didn't hit his shots when he was with my team, yeah, I still remember that game 5 where he bricked at the top of the key. But he's still a useful veteran that can help any team win. Obviously, like I said, Josh Richardson is a good option. Maybe an Alec Burks, a Norman Powell. Pretty much guys that can actually complement the big three and not just like throw pieces together. And I think personally, Steve Nash, he's gonna grow as a coach from all this. Like I know he's a first year head coach, and it may seem like, oh man, he made some really bad coaching decisions. Like he didn't call timeout in the situation where KD had the ball and Drew Holiday clamped him basically. Let's be honest, as great as KD is, Holiday did clamp him when they needed him to. But Steve Nash should call timeout. I just think it's coaching inexperience, and I think he'll grow as a coach, and I believe he can get better because let's keep it out. Let's be real. Not many coaches do really well in their first year unless if your name is Steve Kerr. Like Brad Stevens, like I still consider him an overrated coach, but that doesn't mean he's bad. I still think he's a pretty good coach. And I do admit that I said in my Celtics video that Brad Stevens is an overrated head coach, but that's because people were overrating him. But in his first year, Brad Stevens didn't even make the playoffs with the players he had. And as soon as the players grew into great players like Marcus Smart, and obviously getting guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and then you had Isaiah Thomas to Kyrie to Kemba, and now it's just Tatum after the Kemba trade. Brad Stevens really left his mark on the Celtics organization. Like they made the conference finals 3 of the past 5 years that Brad was the head coach. And I think Steve Nash can be that same type of head coach. And if he plays his cards right, he'll be a much better head coach next year, in my opinion. And to be honest, bro, next year you're going to see a healthier Brooklyn Nets with much more continuity, and they're going to get better role players in the offseason. And I said the same thing with the Lakers too. We'll get ourselves better players and we'll be more in tune and we'll be back to our winning ways come next year. And it's the same thing with Brooklyn. So I'd be excited. Like I know it hurts to lose. Trust me. You know, us losing against the Suns in a game 6 left a hole in my heart. But I'm pretty optimistic for next year. So I'd be excited if I were a Brooklyn fan because this is the start of something special. And KD really solidified himself in this series that he is a fighter and he will go down as one of the greatest scorers of this generation. So, you know, KD deserves everybody's respect. Now, I know, his move to Golden State a few years ago kind of, I don't want to say hurt his legacy, but it did lead to people ridiculing him because people saying, oh, he left a great situation with Russell Westbrook and all those guys. But, KD is a fighter. He wants to win, and he left it all out there. It's just that the Bucks were just better. So, congrats to Milwaukee, and I wish him well for the rest of the way. And that's basically it. What a series this was, bro. I saw a lot of epic games. games 3 and 7, well, 3, 5, and 7 were probably the best of this series. And whew, I'm glad this roller coaster ride of a series is over. And man, everybody can finally breathe now. So yeah, man. That's basically it for series recap today. I have another one to do tomorrow with the Sixers Hawks series. I may talk about the future of like the Hawks and Trae Young because the Hawks, they'll be a dangerous team. They'll be a dangerous team and maybe a finals contender in the future. But again, that's gonna be for my next episode series recap. So great series, Bob. Milwaukee and Brooklyn both left it all out there. Both wanted it more. KD and LeBron are neck and neck for best player in the world, even though both have suffered an early exit out of the playoffs. But shout out to Milwaukee. I wish them well the rest of the way, and here's to good health for both Brooklyn and the Lakers next year because they both will make the finals next year. So there you have it. And one more thing before I go. I have never seen a player bounce back from an Achilles injury the way Kevin Durant has bounced back. Because remember, bro, earlier in the year, a lot of people were saying that maybe KD will be at around 80%. He'll be like 70% of what he was because Achilles tears are really nothing to come back from, bro. But ever since the opening day game against his former team, the Golden State Warriors, and the Christmas game, I texted one of my friends and I just simply said that Kevin Durant is back. And he is back. And him and LeBron are gonna wreck havoc. Or actually, no, him and Kyrie and James, along with LeBron and AD, they're all gonna cause havoc, especially in the playoffs next year. So kudos to KD bouncing back like that after suffering one of the worst injuries in basketball. You know, just so inspirational, man. So yeah, that's all I gotta say. Thank y'all for watching episode 8 of series recap. That is the end of this video. I'm X. Deuces.